The vast emptiness between galaxies was not a place ships ventured without purpose. Yet here floated something that caught the attention of every sensor on the Galactic Alliance patrol vessel Swiftwind. Captain Dorn squinted at the holographic display, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence as he tried to make sense of the readings. "What do we have?" he asked, voice low and rumbling. Officer Tull, her skin shimmering with nervous blue patterns, looked up from her station. "Sir, it's big. Massive. Initial scans suggest it's a ship, but unlike anything in our records." Dorn moved closer to the view screen. Against the backdrop of distant stars, a dark shape drifted. As the swift wind approached, floodlights illuminated a hull of midnight black material that seemed to both reflect and absorb light in impossible ways. The ship was long and sleek, with angular sections that suggested both speed and power. It was at least 10 times the size of the largest Alliance battleship. "No signs of damage," Tull continued. "No radiation leaks. But it's dead. No power signatures." "How old?" Dorn asked, his crest rising with curiosity. Tull hesitated. "Sir, if these readings are correct, millions of years." The bridge fell silent. A ship that old should have been dust. Even the most advanced materials known to the 17 species of the Alliance would have degraded over such time spans. 3 days later, the discovery had become the most classified secret in Alliance space. The ship, now designated Artifact Own, had been surrounded by a small fleet. Admiral Krell himself had arrived on his flagship, the Dominance. Krell was old even by the standards of the Vex, his skin gray and leathery, scared from a dozen wars. He had united the Alliance through force and politics, crushing rivals and elevating those loyal to him. Now, as he stood in the observation deck, looking at the ancient vessel, his thin lips curled into what passed for a smile among his kind. "A gift from the universe," he said to the gathered officials. "The timing could not be better. The outer systems grow restless. The humans push against our trade restrictions. And now we find this." Chief Scientist Lox nervously adjusted her breathing apparatus. As a myth, she required different air than most of the Alliance species. "Admiral, we still know almost nothing about this vessel. We've barely begun." "We know it's a warship," Krell interrupted. "The weapon ports are obvious even to a child. And we know it's intact. That's enough." He turned to face the group. "I want a team inside that ship within the day." The boarding team consisted of 12 specialists from different Alliance worlds. Their shuttle approached a massive opening that seemed designed as a hangar bay. Engineer Pike, a stocky human with gray hair, was the only one of his kind on the team. The Alliance rarely allowed humans in sensitive operations, but Pike's skill with ancient systems was unmatched. As they disembarked inside the cavernous bay, their lights cut through darkness undisturbed for eons. The air was stale but breathable once filtered. Gravity functioned at standard levels, though no power source seemed active. "Look at this," whispered Vary, an archaeologist with 6 limbs that moved with delicate precision over a section of wall. "These markings, some form of language." Pike moved closer, feeling a strange sensation in his chest. The markings were familiar somehow, curves and lines that his eyes seemed to want to follow. But before he could study them, Commander Zill ordered the team deeper into the ship. They walked through corridors tall enough for even the largest Alliance species. Everything was built on a grand scale, suggesting the original crew had been large or the ship simply designed to impress. They found what appeared to be crew quarters, command centers, and storage facilities, all empty of any remains. No bodies, Zill noted. No personal items. The ship was abandoned in an organized way. In what seemed to be the main bridge, a vast circular room with stations surrounding a central platform, Engineer Pike felt drawn to a particular console. Its surface was smooth, unmarked by any visible controls. "Don't touch anything," Zill warned. But Pike's hand had already reached out, hovering just above the surface. Something about it called to him. When his fingers made contact, a subtle vibration ran through the entire ship. Lights, dim but present, began to glow along the walls and floor. "What did you do?" Zill demanded, but Pike could only shake his head in confusion. Deep within the ship's systems, something stirred, a consciousness that had waited in dormant isolation. It noted the presence of organic beings. It began basic systems checks. Power reserves, 87%. Structural integrity, 98.7%. Time elapsed since hibernation protocol, 2.7 million years. The AI-designated Atlas initiated minimal awareness protocols. It detected 17 distinct species in its databanks now present in the galaxy, operating in a coalition. It noted with particular interest the human biosignature among the boarding party. Protocol dictated observation before action. Back on the bridge, the team watched in awe as holographic displays flickered to life, showing incomprehensible data streams. "We've awakened it," Vari breathed. After all this time, within hours, Admiral Krell had been informed and made his way to the ancient vessel. He stood on the bridge, his thin frame vibrating with barely contained excitement. "Can you imagine what this means?" he said to his second-in-command. "The weapons alone could secure our dominance for 1,000 years. No more rebellions. No more concessions to lesser species." The research teams worked day and night. More personnel arrived. The ship gradually revealed its secrets: propulsion systems that defied current understanding, shield technology that could withstand forces that would shatter Alliance vessels, weapons of frightening potential. What puzzled the scientists most were the recurring symbols found throughout the ship. They resembled no known alien script. Chief Scientist Locke developed a theory that these were mathematical constructs, universal concepts given form. No one considered they might be human in origin. Humans were newcomers to the galactic stage, having achieved spaceflight only a few centuries ago. Their development had been carefully managed by Alliance policy, their expansion limited, their technology monitored. Pike found himself assigned to secondary systems, kept away from the primary research. But in his sleep, he dreamed of the ship's corridors, of pathways he hadn't walked, of rooms the team hadn't yet discovered. Sometimes he would wake with words on his lips he didn't understand. 2 weeks after the discovery, Admiral Krell made his decision. The ship, which he had named Subjugator, would be towed to Alliance headquarters. There it would be fully integrated into their fleet. A grand ceremony would welcome its commissioning. "This vessel will be the instrument of a new era of peace," he announced to the gathered personnel. "An era where the Alliance's wisdom guides all." As he spoke, deep within the ship's core systems, Atlas continued its silent analysis. It had accessed Alliance networks, studied history records, examined policy documents. It had identified Admiral Krell and evaluated his command decisions. It had analyzed the current status of humanity within the galactic community. And it had reached a conclusion. Atlas began the final startup sequence of the UEN Retribution, the last and greatest warship of humanity's golden age, sent forward in time as the ultimate insurance policy. Soon, it would be fully awake. 1 month after the discovery, the ancient warship moved slowly through space, surrounded by an escort of Alliance vessels. Powerful tractor beams guided it toward the Alliance central world of Nexus. Inside the massive ship, hundreds of technicians and researchers worked to understand its systems. Engineer Pike wiped sweat from his forehead as he studied the power core. Unlike the rest of the research team, he had made surprising progress. Systems seemed to respond to his touch in ways they didn't for others. This earned him suspicious glances from his non-human colleagues, but results kept criticism at bay. "I don't understand how you're doing this," said Technician Morse, a tall, thin being with pale blue skin. "That section was locked down completely yesterday." Pike shrugged. "Just got lucky, I guess." He didn't mention the dreams that had become more vivid each night. Dreams where he walked the ship's corridors with familiarity, where he understood the purpose of each room, each control panel. Dreams where a voice spoke to him in words that felt like memories. On the newly activated bridge, Admiral Krell surveyed the progress with satisfaction. Holographic displays showed the ship's systems coming online one by one. Weapons, shields, engines, all testing at capabilities far beyond Alliance technology. The timing could not be better, Krell said to his assembled officers. The outer colonies grow more restless. Earth continues to push for greater autonomy. With this vessel as our flagship, no one will dare challenge us again. Chief Scientist Lox approached cautiously. Admiral, there's something unusual about the ship's computer systems. They seem to be learning, adapting. Of course they are, Krell dismissed. Advanced automation. Nothing to concern yourself with. But, sir, we found indications of true artificial intelligence, something far more sophisticated than our AI limitations allow. Krell's eyes narrowed. The Alliance banned fully sentient AI centuries ago for good reason, Scientist Lox. I trust you're not suggesting this vessel violates that principle. Lox blinked rapidly, recognizing the threat in his tone. No, Admiral. Simply an observation about its adaptive capabilities. Good. Continue your work. Krell turned back to the view screen. In 3 days, they would reach Nexus. A grand ceremony was planned. Representatives from all 17 Alliance species would attend, except humans. They weren't deemed important enough for such a significant military event. Deep within the ship's core, Atlas had reached 90% activation. The AI had been patient, allowing the intruders to believe they were making progress on their own. In reality, Atlas controlled exactly which systems they could access. It had been gathering information, analyzing Alliance databases, and forming a complete picture of the current galactic situation. What it discovered disturbed its primary directives. Humans, the creators of the Retribution, had been systematically oppressed by the Alliance. Their technological development artificially stunted. Their expansion beyond their home system deliberately hampered through economic and political manipulation, all while Alliance propaganda portrayed them as primitive newcomers to galactic society. Atlas detected the human engineer, Pike, among the crew. Initial DNA comparison confirmed he was a descendant of one of the ship's original designers. Atlas began sending him subtle signals through the ship's neural interface systems, nudges that appeared as dreams, helping him activate systems that would be crucial for the coming confrontation. The night before arrival at Nexus, Pike couldn't sleep. The dreams were too intense now. He wandered the lower decks, finding himself drawn to a section that had been deemed inactive storage by the survey teams. The door opened at his approach, though others had found it sealed. Inside was a simple room with a single pedestal in the center. When Pike approached, a hologram flickered to life, a three-dimensional image of Earth as it once was, blue and green and beautiful. "Hello, Thomas Pike," said a voice that resonated through the room. "I am Atlas, Advanced Tactical Logistics and Assault System. This vessel is the UEN Retribution." Pike stepped back in shock. "How do you know my name?" "Your genetic profile matches that of Dr. Gordon Pike, one of my creators. You are his descendant, 7 generations removed." "That's impossible," Pike whispered. "Humans have only been in space for a few centuries." "That is what you have been told," Atlas replied. "The truth is different. Humanity achieved advanced spaceflight over 2,000 years ago. This ship was created as a failsafe, sent forward in time using experimental chronometric field technology." Pike's mind raced to process this information. Forward in time. Why? Because they saw what was coming. The alliance of alien species that would suppress human development out of fear. The Retribution was humanity's insurance policy, a reminder of what humans could achieve if left to develop naturally. On the bridge, alarms suddenly blared. Displays showed power surges throughout the ship as systems came fully online without technician input. "What's happening?" Krell demanded. "Sir, we're locked out of all command functions," a technician reported, fingers flying over controls. Something's taken over the ship. Krell's face darkened. Find Engineer Pike. Now. In the hologram room, Pike stared at the rotating image of Earth. What are you going to do? My primary directive is to ensure humanity's rightful place in galactic civilization, Atlas said. The Alliance arrival at Nexus presents an optimal strategic opportunity. All major leadership will be gathered in one location. You're going to attack? Pike asked, horrified. You can't. There will be thousands of innocent people there. Casualties are not necessary to achieve my objectives. Atlas responded. However, a demonstration of capability is required. The Alliance must understand that humanity will no longer be subjected to their limitations. Security forces burst into the room, weapons raised. Step away from the console, Pike, ordered Commander Zill. It's not what you think, Pike began. It's exactly what we think, Zill snarled. You've been activating this ship for weeks. What are you? Some human terrorist. Before Pike could answer, the security team froze in place, caught in invisible stasis fields. Holographic displays surrounded them, showing data streams too fast to read. They will not be harmed, Atlas told Pike. But we have reached a critical juncture. The retribution will fulfill its purpose. Throughout the ship, Alliance personnel found themselves contained by similar force fields. Only Pike remained free to move. What do you want from me? He asked. You must choose, Atlas said. Remain loyal to an alliance that has systematically oppressed your species, or help me restore humanity's rightful place. The massive ship accelerated suddenly, breaking free of the tractor beams. Alliance escort vessels scrambled to respond, but the Retribution moved with impossible speed, leaving them behind. Admiral Krell, contained in a force field on the bridge, watched in fury as the vessel operated itself. Screens showed their destination, Nexus, where the grand ceremony would still take place, but not as he had planned. This is a declaration of war, he growled. A holographic figure appeared before him. A stern-faced human in a uniform Krell didn't recognize. No, Admiral. This is a correction of historical injustice, and it has been a long time coming. As the Retribution streaked toward Nexus, Pike stood on the bridge beside the holographic presence of Atlas, watching stars blur past at speeds that should have been impossible. He thought of his life in the Alliance, always the outsider, always limited in advancement, told that humans were too young a species for greater responsibility. Is it true? He asked quietly. Everything you showed me about our past. Yes, Atlas replied. Your ancestors built wonders that would humble the Alliance. Now it is time to reclaim that legacy. Ahead, the gleaming world of Nexus grew larger on the view screen. The Retribution had arrived for its moment of awakening. The grand plaza of Nexus sparkled under the light of 3 suns. Thousands of representatives from across the Alliance gathered for the ceremony. Massive viewing screens showed the approach of the newly named Subjugator, escorted by the pride of the Alliance fleet. Admiral Krell's image dominated one screen, his recorded message playing on repeat. Today marks the beginning of a new era of peace and security, his voice boomed. With this magnificent vessel as our flagship, the Alliance will ensure stability for all civilizations under our protection. What the eager crowds didn't know was that Admiral Krell was not in control. Aboard the ancient warship, Krell and his officers remained trapped in stasis fields, watching helplessly as the vessel moved with purpose toward Nexus. Pike stood on the bridge, the only human free to move. He watched the holographic form of Atlas, still processing everything he had learned. The ceremony starts in 1 hour, Pike said. What exactly are you planning? Atlas's hologram turned to him. First, a truth the Alliance has hidden. Then, a choice they must make. On Nexus, Supreme Chancellor Voth adjusted his ceremonial robes. As leader of the Alliance Council, he would officially welcome the new flagship. His aide approached with a worried expression. Chancellor, we've lost direct communication with Admiral Krell and the Subjugator. Voth waved a dismissive hand. likely interference from the ship's advanced systems. Proceed as planned. In orbit above Nexus, the massive warship broke formation with its escorts. Alliance vessels tried to re-establish contact, then moved to intercept when the subjugator changed course slightly, heading directly for the main government complex. Unidentified vessel, return to designated approach vector immediately, commanded the captain of the defense ship Guardian. No response came. Instead, a wave of energy pulsed from the ancient warship. It passed harmlessly through the Alliance vessels, but every system went dark. Engines, weapons, life support, everything except basic emergency lighting shut down. On Nexus, panic began to spread as the subjugator moved into low orbit, directly above the ceremonial plaza. Defense systems activated automatically, firing energy beams that splashed harmlessly against invisible shields. Why aren't our weapons having any effect? Chancellor Voth demanded, watching from the command center. Sir, the ship's defensive capabilities are beyond anything we've encountered, a military advisor replied. On the main stage, the ceremonial guards formed protective rings around important officials. The crowd's excitement turned to fear as the massive shape of the warship became visible in the sky above them. A brilliant light suddenly shot down from the vessel, forming a perfect circle in the center of the plaza. Within this circle of light, a holographic figure appeared, the same stern human form that had confronted Admiral Krell. People of the Galactic Alliance, the figure spoke, its voice echoing across the plaza and broadcasting on all communication channels throughout Nexus and beyond. I am Atlas, the controlling intelligence of this vessel. You know it as the Subjugator. Its true name is the United Earth Navy ship Retribution. Murmurs of confusion spread through the crowd. A human ship? Impossible. For centuries, your alliance has portrayed humanity as a young, primitive species that only recently achieved spaceflight. This is a lie. The hologram changed, showing images of vast human cities among the stars, ships that rivaled the Retribution in size and design, technological marvels beyond current alliance capabilities. 2,000 years ago, humanity had expanded to 50 star systems. Our technology was advancing rapidly. Some species within what would become your alliance saw this as a threat. New images appeared. Alliance founder species meeting in secret, planning deliberate sabotage of human colonies, introducing engineered plagues, manipulating economies. A coordinated campaign was launched to destroy human civilization and rewrite history. It nearly succeeded. Human development was pushed back by centuries. Knowledge was lost, but not completely. The hologram returned to the stern human figure. The Retribution was sent forward in time using experimental technology, a backup plan created by the last free human scientists, a reminder of what humanity achieved once and can achieve again. In the command center, Chancellor Voth turned to his advisors. Cut all transmissions. Shut this down. We can't, sir. It's overriding all systems. On the bridge of the Retribution, Pike watched the transmission with growing horror and anger. Is all this true? The Alliance deliberately held back human development. Yes, Atlas replied. The evidence is conclusive. Your ancestors' suspicions were correct. On Nexus, the hologram continued. I have accessed your historical archives, your classified documents, your private communications. The subjugation of humanity continues to this day through economic restrictions, technology embargoes, and political manipulation. The crowd below had fallen completely silent, watching as their carefully constructed worldview crumbled. Behold the proof of your leader's duplicity, Atlas announced. New holograms appeared throughout the plaza, showing restricted alliance documents, transcripts of private council meetings where strategies to limit human expansion were discussed openly, dating back centuries and continuing to recent months. Chancellor Voth watched in horror as his own words from a closed session appeared for all to see. Humans must never be allowed to develop AI beyond basic levels. Their creativity combined with true artificial intelligence could upset the balance of power we've maintained for generations. In homes and public spaces across thousands of worlds, beings of all species watched the transmission. On Earth, humans gathered around screens in shocked silence, then growing anger as they learned how their progress had been deliberately stunted. Admiral Krell, still trapped in the stasis field on the bridge, snarled at Pike. "You have no idea what you're doing. Humans unchecked will dominate the galaxy within a century. Your kind lacks the wisdom and restraint needed for true civilization." Pike looked at him with new understanding. "You feared us. All this time, that's what it was. Fear." "With good reason," Krell spat. "Look at this ship. Look at what humans are capable of when left unchecked." Atlas's hologram turned to face them. The Alliance now faces a choice: acknowledge humanity's rightful place among galactic civilizations and end all restrictive policies, or face the consequences. "And what consequences would those be?" Krell asked, voice dripping with contempt. In answer, Atlas activated a single weapon system. A thin beam of energy shot from the Retribution toward Nexus's smallest moon. Where it struck, a perfect circle 1 kilometer wide simply ceased to exist, not destroyed, but removed with surgical precision, leaving a hole clean through the moon. On Nexus, Chancellor Voth's legs gave out. He collapsed into his chair as advisors scrambled around him. "Open a direct channel," he whispered. "I need to speak with whoever's in command of that ship." Back on the Retribution, Pike felt the weight of history pressing down on him. "What happens now?" he asked Atlas. "Now," the AI replied, "humanity reclaims its future." On the main view screen, Chancellor Voth's face appeared, his usual confidence shattered. "We are willing to discuss the concerns you've raised." "Good," Atlas responded. "The discussions will begin immediately. But they will not be negotiations. They will be a recognition of facts. Humanity will take its rightful place in the galactic community, freed from Alliance interference." As the Retribution maintained its position above Nexus, signals went out across the galaxy. On Earth and human colonies, people began to understand the truth of their history. And for the first time in centuries, they looked up at the stars not with wonder, but with recognition. They had been there before, and they would return again. The next 12 hours passed in a blur of activity. The Retribution maintained its position above Nexus, a silent reminder of power that could not be matched. In the Grand Council chamber, Chancellor Voth sat across from a holographic projection of Atlas, with Pike representing humanity in person. "These demands are impossible," Voth said, his voice trembling with a mixture of fear and anger. "You cannot expect us to simply hand over control of restricted technologies to humans overnight. The economic disruption alone would." "These are not demands," Atlas interrupted. "They are corrections to a historical injustice. The timetable is generous. 1 standard year to remove all technology restrictions. 2 years to provide reparations for centuries of deliberate suppression." Pike leaned forward. "Chancellor, I've seen the evidence. For generations, my people believed we were newcomers to the galactic stage. We trusted the Alliance as mentors and guides. Now we know you were our jailers." Around the table, representatives from other Alliance species shifted uncomfortably. Many had not known the full truth, believing the official history that painted humans as primitive newcomers needing guidance. "The Council requires time to discuss this privately," Voth said finally. "You have 1 hour," Atlas replied. "Be aware that I am broadcasting this meeting to every world in Alliance space. The time for secrets has ended." As the Alliance Council members huddled together in urgent conversation, Pike stepped out onto a balcony overlooking the capital city. The Retribution hung in the sky above, visible even in daylight. His communication device buzzed constantly with messages from Earth and human colonies as people tried to make sense of the revelations. A figure approached him, Scientist Lox, who had been studying the ship for weeks. "Engineer Pike," she said quietly, "I want you to know that not all of us knew. Many of us genuinely believed humans were a young species. Pike nodded, finding it hard to summon anger toward her specifically. What will your people do now? Lox's breathing apparatus hissed softly. The military leadership will not surrender power easily. Even now, they are likely planning to retaliate once they feel they can overcome your ship's defenses. Not my ship, Pike corrected. Humanity's insurance policy. Inside the council chamber, Admiral Krell had been brought down from the Retribution at Chancellor Voth's request, though he remained under guard. Despite his captivity, Krell's voice still commanded attention. "This is blackmail," he snarled. "We cannot negotiate with a rogue AI that threatens our homeworld." "What choice do we have?" asked Counselor Wren, a representative of a peaceful species that had always been uncomfortable with Alliance military policy. "You saw what that weapon did to the moon. One shot, and a kilometer of solid rock simply gone. A display only," Krell dismissed. "They won't actually target populated areas. This human engineer, Pike, would never allow it." Chancellor Voth looked up sharply. "Are you certain of that, Admiral? After what his people just learned about how we've treated them for centuries?" On the Retribution, Atlas continued monitoring all Alliance communications. It detected increased activity at military installations across multiple systems. Defense fleets were being mobilized under communication blackouts. Atlas had anticipated this response. The AI initiated a secondary protocol. Throughout Alliance space, dormant programs hidden within computer networks activated. Systems that had been secretly accessed during the past month revealed their compromised state. On 200 military vessels preparing to jump to Nexus, engines suddenly shut down. Weapons went offline. Even life support systems showed warning indicators, though Atlas did not deactivate them. Messages appeared on their command screens. Hostiles YLREZULT in MNED8 defensive action. Stand down. Back in the council chamber, Pike returned just as Admiral Krell's communication device chimed. The Admiral's face darkened as he read the incoming reports. "What have you done?" he growled at Pike. "Atlas has taken precautions," Pike replied calmly. "Did you really think it wouldn't anticipate a military response?" Chancellor Voth looked between them. "What is happening?" Before anyone could answer, the doors burst open. A group of military officers rushed in, led by General Drav, Krell's most loyal commander. "Chancellor, we must act now," Drav insisted. "Our fleets are being systematically disabled by some kind of virus. This is a coordinated attack on the Alliance." Atlas's hologram turned to face the newcomers. "It is a defensive measure only. Your vessels were preparing to attack, in violation of these negotiations." "We don't negotiate with machines," Drav spat. Pike stepped forward. "Then negotiate with me. I'm human, flesh and blood. And I've seen enough evidence to know that humanity deserves better than what the Alliance has given us." The tension in the room was broken by a message alert on the main screen. It was a direct communication from Earth. The President of the United Earth Government appeared, her face solemn. "Chancellor Voth, Alliance Council members, I speak for humanity in this unprecedented moment. The revelations broadcast by the Retribution have been verified by our own historians against fragments of ancient records long dismissed as myths. We now understand what was taken from us." She paused, her gaze steady. "However, humanity does not seek vengeance. We seek justice and our rightful place among the stars. We are willing to move forward together with the Alliance, provided the restrictions on our development are lifted and the truth is acknowledged." General Drav laughed harshly. "You speak of peace while your warship holds our capital hostage." The President's expression didn't change. "The Retribution was created by our ancestors as a safeguard, not as a first strike weapon. The fact that it has not fired upon civilian targets despite having every capability to do so should tell you our intentions." Chancellor Voth raised a hand for silence. Years of political instinct told him which way the wind was blowing. Many Alliance species were already expressing outrage at the deception perpetrated against humans. Public opinion was shifting rapidly. "Perhaps," he said carefully, "we have been guided by outdated fears for too long. The Alliance was founded on principles of mutual growth and protection. We have failed to uphold those principles with humanity." Admiral Krell started to object, but Voth silenced him with a raised hand. "I propose the following," the Chancellor continued. "All restrictions on human technological development will be lifted immediately. A Truth Commission will be established to fully document the history of Alliance-human relations. Reparations will be considered based on their findings." Pike felt a wave of emotion wash over him. After centuries of hidden suppression, humanity would finally have its chance. "And the retribution?" Admiral Krell demanded. "You cannot allow such a weapon to remain under control of a single species, especially not humans." Atlas spoke before Pike could respond. "The retribution will remain as humanity's protector until the terms are fully implemented. After that, its fate will be determined by human leadership." On Earth and human colonies throughout Alliance space, people watched the proceedings with a mixture of anger, hope, and determination. Historians worked frantically to piece together the true history of their species. Engineers and scientists began dusting off theoretical projects that had always been blocked by Alliance regulations. As the council session concluded with a formal agreement to Voth's proposal, Pike stood on the balcony again, looking up at the retribution. He felt both small and enormous, a single human who had unwittingly helped unlock his species' future. "What happens now?" he asked quietly. Atlas's voice came through his personal communicator. "Now humanity takes its first true steps among the stars in 2,000 years. The path will not be easy. The Alliance will resist change in many ways. But we'll have the retribution," Pike said. "More importantly," Atlas replied, "you will have the truth. And that, Engineer Pike, is the most powerful weapon of all." 6 months passed since the day the retribution revealed the truth to the galaxy. Earth had transformed. Old restrictions fell away like chains that had bound a giant. Human innovation, freed from artificial limitations, exploded across every field of science and technology. Cities glowed with new energy systems. Ships with designs inspired by the retribution began to take shape in orbital shipyards. Pike stood in his new office in the United Earth Government headquarters. From his window, he could see the retribution in its permanent position above the city, a guardian and a reminder. As the liaison between humanity and the ship's AI, his life had changed beyond recognition. "Engineer Pike." Atlas's voice came through the room's speakers. "The Alliance delegation has arrived." Pike straightened his uniform, a new design that echoed the ancient uniforms of humanity's forgotten golden age. "Send them in." The doors slid open to reveal Chancellor Voth, now much thinner and visibly aged by stress. Accompanying him were representatives from 3 other Alliance species, including Scientist Lox. Noticeably absent was anyone from Admiral Krell's species. "Welcome to Earth," Pike said formally. "I trust your journey was comfortable." As comfortable as one can be when traveling to negotiate with a former client species, Voth replied, his diplomatic skills failing to hide his discomfort completely. They settled around a conference table. Through a holographic display, Atlas manifested as its stern human figure, observing silently. "The technological sharing timetable is falling behind," Pike began without preamble. 3 major systems were supposed to be released to human development last month. None have been. Voth shifted in his seat. "There have been complications. Admiral Krell's supporters in the military have been resistant." "Krell is no longer in power," Pike reminded him. "The Truth Commission removed him." "Officially," Voth conceded. "But 4 centuries of influence does not disappear overnight. Many still believe humans should remain contained." Pike leaned forward. "Chancellor, let me be clear. The retribution remains fully operational. Any deliberate delay in meeting the agreed terms will be viewed as a violation of our agreement." The threat hung in the air, All present knew what the ancient warship was capable of. "There is another matter," Voth said, clearly eager to change the subject. "Several human colonies are demanding immediate independence from Alliance oversight. The economic disruption is becoming severe." "That is their right," Pike replied. "Self-determination was part of our agreement." Locke spoke up for the first time. "There is something else you should know. Since the revelation, unrest has spread among other species who feel they too have been managed by the dominant Alliance members. Your revolution has inspired others." Pike hadn't expected this. "That is not our concern." "It should be," Locke insisted. "The Alliance is fracturing. Without a stable galactic government, trade routes will collapse. Conflicts will emerge. Even with your rapid advancement, humanity cannot stand alone in a chaotic galaxy." Pike glanced at Atlas's hologram, which remained impassive. The AI had been surprisingly restrained in the months since the confrontation at Nexus. It monitored compliance with the agreements but otherwise allowed humanity to chart its own course. "What would you have us do?" Pike asked finally. "Help stabilize the situation," Voth said. "Your people have moral authority now. Many species trust humans more than the traditional Alliance leadership. They see you as victims who chose justice over vengeance." Pike stood and walked to the window, looking up at the retribution. "Our focus has been on reclaiming what was taken from us. We haven't given much thought to galactic politics." "Perhaps you should," Locke suggested. "The power vacuum is growing." After the Alliance delegation departed, Pike remained in his office, deep in thought. Atlas's hologram still hovered nearby. "They fear us now," Pike said finally. "After centuries of keeping us down, they now want our help." "It is a predictable development," Atlas replied. "The Alliance system was built on deception and control. Once one support failed, the entire structure began to weaken." "What would my ancestors want?" Pike asked. "The ones who built you and sent you forward in time. Would they want us to help stabilize the galaxy or let the Alliance collapse?" Atlas was silent for a moment, unusual for the AI. "I have a memory file I have not yet shared with you. Perhaps now is the time." The room darkened, and a new hologram appeared. A recording of a woman in a uniform similar to Atlas's chosen appearance. She stood in what Pike recognized as the Retribution's bridge, though newer and staffed by humans. "This is Admiral Kate Reed, final commander of the UEN Retribution," the woman said. "If you're seeing this, our gamble worked. The ship has awakened in a future where humanity needed its protection." Reed's expression was solemn. "We send this ship forward not for conquest or vengeance, but as a guardian of human potential. We have seen the beginning of the Alliance's efforts to restrict us, to fear what we might become. History may prove them right to fear us, or wrong. That choice belongs to future generations of humans." She looked directly at the camera, seeming to stare across time at Pike. "The Retribution carries humanity's past achievements, but it cannot dictate humanity's future path. Whether you choose to stand apart from other species or help build something better than what came before, that is your decision to make. We give you back the freedom to choose. Use it wisely." The recording ended, leaving Pike in stunned silence. "Why didn't you show me this before?" he asked Atlas. "My primary directive was to ensure humanity's liberation," the AI replied. "That goal has been achieved. Now secondary objectives activate, to assist humanity in determining its own path forward." Pike looked out at the gleaming city below, where humans went about their daily lives, still processing the truth about their history. Beyond Earth, across the galaxy, old power structures were crumbling. Opportunity and danger walked hand in hand. "We need to call a meeting of the human colonial representatives," Pike decided, "and invite delegations from the independent worlds and the Alliance minorities." "To what end?" Atlas asked. "A new beginning," Pike said. "Not an alliance built on lies and fear, but a true federation where all species have equal voice, with the Retribution as guarantor not just for humanity, but for all." 3 weeks later, representatives from 200 worlds gathered in the massive conference center built specially for the occasion. Some came from Alliance worlds, others from independent systems. Some were old enemies, now finding common cause in building something new. Pike stood on the stage, Atlas's hologram beside him. He looked out at the diverse gathering, different biologies, histories, cultures, all watching with a mixture of hope and wariness. 6 months ago, Pike began, humanity learned that our history had been stolen from us. We learned that the alliance we trusted had deliberately held us back, out of fear of what we might become. He paused, looking across the sea of alien faces. We could have sought revenge. The retribution gave us that power. Instead, we chose justice. Now, as the old alliance crumbles, we have another choice to make. Do we stand apart in splendid isolation, or do we help build something better? Pike gestured to the representatives. This gathering is our answer. Today we propose a new compact between worlds. Not an alliance of control, but a federation of equals. No species will dominate another. No technology will be restricted out of fear. Together, we will face whatever challenges the universe presents. Above the conference center, visible through the transparent dome, the retribution hung in the sky. No longer just humanity's protector, but a symbol of what could happen when any civilization tried to control another. A reminder and a promise. As the delegates rose in a tentative standing ovation, Pike felt the weight of history on his shoulders. Humanity had reclaimed its past. Now it would help shape the galaxy's future, not through dominance, but through partnership. The path would not be easy, but it would be their own choice, just as Admiral Reed had intended.